What's up, everyone? This is the Next State Podcast, episode 87, with Mikel
And Tanyka.
where we have conversation on different topics. We're going to another splurge of topics today on today's episode. But we're going to go back to a topic uh that brought us here, basically.
The first thing we ever talked about on the
Yeah,
podcast.
first
Yeah.
episode that we talked about before we get into the topic.
Mhm.
Disney's Snow White uh actually released last week.
Mhm.
And it
Probably about just a little over a week ago by the time you
yeah,
picked up.
I would
Yeah.
say a little bit over a week ago, I would say. And it didn't do too well on
Yeah.
its box office pro projections.
hmm
It did
This was the
43
opening
million.
weekend too, right?
Yeah, opening week, yeah,
Yeah.
basically opening weekend. So it did 43 million
hmm
out of the budget of 250
Yeah.
million.
Yeah. No.
So yeah, I don't know, it might break even. I'm not sure. It might not.
Maybe.
There was a lot of empty seats when I saw on the on Twitter, like a lot of people posting uh um ticket pictures, like when you get your ticket from the um
Like when you buy ahead of time.
you
Yeah.
buy ahead of time every single thing,
Yeah.
and people were just like posting it, screenshotting it, etc. And you can see a lot of like empty seats. I'm no surprised because, like, Snow White is basically one of Disney's main princesses.
hmm
Um, so like this is probably not good
Not even
for
just the
Disney,
main princess, it's like the first princess.
is it?
Yeah, I'm pretty sure Snow White was the first movie. 'Cause I
Uh,
remember when we talked about it, I remember saying it was the first movie. Because we've talked about Disney a few times now on the
yeah.
podcast. I remember saying it was the very first one. It came out in 1936.
Mm-hmm. Uh-huh. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, well, like I'm talking about, like, out of all the princesses, like Cinderella's another one.
hmm
Who's another one? Mulan? Is it
When
Mulan?
I, no, I wouldn't say Mulan is an original. I mean, when I think original, I'm thinking more of those older movies. At least I am. I can't speak to anyone else, but when I think that, I think, yeah, Snow White, um, Beauty, like the Sleeping Beauty,
Yeah.
um, Cinderella,
Ariel's one, Jasmine,
Air,
Pocahontas.
Ariel, yes, I would say more Ariel, kind of
Mm-hmm.
because it is still like in the 80s, but it's still like kind of more the newer generation of princess. Same thing with Pocahontas and that.
Yeah.
So yeah, I would think more of like the older school ones,
Yeah.
which are those movies.
And then, yeah, Tiana. Yeah.
Now,
Um,
Tiana is not a modern day. She's a popular princess,
hmm
but when I think because she's more modern, she's more
hmm
recent. Yeah, I think it's just very
You think
different.
she's more recent? She's more of a
Absolutely. That movie only came out.
that's been she 10 years, is that over 10 years ago, wasn't it?
Yeah, but when someone talks about the original of them, or we're talking the ones that are like in the early 1900s.
Yeah.
We're not talking and even the 90s.
Mm,
We're talking Cinderella, Sleeping Beauty,
right.
Snow White,
Yeah.
because they're much older
Mhm.
movies than the others.
True, true, true. Yeah, going back. Yeah, that's true. Going back to, like, what, made, the Snow White movie pop. I think you already know who it is. Rachel
Segler.
Ziegler had some, comments uh before the movie release.
Yeah.
Um, saying that certain things like that about the doors, if you remember.
Mhm.
Other things,
Like, I can't remember what she said now about the dwarves. Was it like the terminology dwarf? That was the
yeah,
issue?
something like that. And then
Okay.
her social stance as well. People have a lot of issues with her social stance.
Okay.
Um, about uh her situation. I'm just trying to read, but
Like
yeah,
her
I think
personal
yeah, her
situation.
personal views and what she viewed Snow White. So basically,
Okay.
she thought Snow White was a woman that uh let me go check that.
Okay.
What do you think basically on is this good for Disney? Um or is it
No,
bad for Disney?
no, I don't think so because again, we kind of talked about this in a, I can't remember if it's an episode that's already come out or whatever, but we do talk about the fact that like Disney doesn't seem to have these original ideas anymore. We're just recycling things and, putting like twists on it. Like, for example, I think of like Beauty and the Beast with it's like
Mm-hmm.
you actually see what would have happened if the spell wasn't broken by a certain point. That's a twist on it that we don't see in the original movie, which now that I'm on the topic of Beauty and the Beast, sorry, I'm going off it a little bit. I was like yesterday years old when I found out that the person who plays Lumiere is the father in Dirty Dancing. Who knew?
Mm-hmm.
I didn't. My mom told me
Right.
that. I'm like, wait, what?
Yeah.
Um, so yeah, but it's you're doing like these modern twists on things, but it's
Yeah.
like this. I I
Yeah.
enjoyed Little Mermaid for what it
Hmm.
was.
Yeah.
Um, I thought it was really good. I thought she did a really good job. Um, but again, it was just like this recycling of previous ideas, and I don't know.
I
Like,
think I think Disney's tried like, um just try to I don't want to say cash cow, but I think they're trying to cash in on the live action stuff with
yeah,
certain
maybe.
animation.
But they've been
But
doing live action movies for at
yeah,
least
yeah,
over a decade now.
quite some time now.
Yeah.
But they did say they were going to do a whole slate of their live action stuff. Like I think it was like 10 years ago.
Mm,
Um,
yeah. They started
and
with Cinderella and then it kind of,
yeah,
slowly trickled in with the others.
and then Aladdin, Lion King, and then
And see,
Lion King
Aladdin,
2. Yeah,
oh, I mean,
yeah, they did Aladdin. Yeah,
no, no,
yeah,
I know, I watched it.
yeah.
I mean, I haven't watched them all. I watched Little Mermaid. I enjoyed the person they picked to play Sebastian because um, I can't remember the actor's name right now, but he has been on Empire. He it was in Hamilton as well. I think
Yeah, yeah,
and he's
yeah,
incredible.
yeah.
So I liked that part of it.
Mm.
But really, the only ones I watched was Little Mermaid, Beauty and the Beast, Aladdin.
Yeah,
Um, and
yeah. I didn't have no, I had no problems with Little Mermaid at all. So like, people had issues because of the race of,
yeah, but I don't
but
care
really
about that
mermaids
so
don't have
much.
race. Oh,
I
okay.
don't care about that so much because
Yeah, 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 yeah,
I look like
yeah,
her, so I don't care. But
yeah.
and I thought she was great. Honestly, I thought she
Hmm.
was great.
Hmm.
But the issue I had with with Aladdin,
Hmm.
which is like, there's nothing they could have done about that. Because at least like with Lion King, at least they were able to have James Earl Jones play Mufasa, which is iconic. Obviously, they were going to have that with Aladdin because
Hmm.
Robin Williams isn't on this plane anymore. But it was a hard pill to swallow for me to have Will Smith playing the genie. but I was able to get past
Yeah,
it.
because of
I was able to get yeah,
Robin
and
Williams.
and
Yeah,
there's no hatred to Will Smith. I love Will Smith,
yeah,
you know, without the slap and everything else. But I love Will Smith. I've grown up watching him, no different than I've grown up watching Robin Williams. But Robin Williams was always a genie for me. So that's what I mean. It's like, why can't we just leave well enough alone? Because the originals are amazing in their own right. Why do we have to have these remakes? And I mean, I didn't even see Mulan
yeah, yeah,
because I was like,
yeah.
I mean, I think with the pandemic, it didn't help things with Mulan, unfortunately.
Mm, hmm.
But I was just
Yeah.
why do we need to do this?
I just, I just think they see that their live action Marvel stuff is doing
Okay,
really
but do we
great.
see what they're doing in Lilo and Stitch?
Oh, yeah, I see that.
Stitch looks like
It actually doesn't look too bad,
I
actually.
disagree.
Really?
I do because
Mm,
I'm gonna say that I'm gonna piggyback off of another podcast too that said this because that's actually perfect because I couldn't quite get my mind wrapped around it.
right.
Like, the whole thing with cartoon movies is you're
Mm,
able to have these magical moments with things,
hmm,
right?
hmm, hmm.
When you make it real life, it loses that
Right.
magic. And with
Yeah.
Stitch, Stitch is this cute alien thing that it works in a cartoon.
Hmm.
As a real life character, I'm like, that scares the hell out of me. It looks
Mm,
basically like if a gremlin turns into the monster thing. I'm just like, I'm
yeah.
not about that. I will
Mm,
not watch that movie. That's the thing. And it's a joke though, but on Facebook,
yeah.
it's a joke, but
Yeah.
it's true. On Facebook, people are like, okay, we see that you're trying to, diversify the movies by having black people play the main roles. You had Ariel and Tinkerbell and
Hmm.
whatever, and then they had a picture of Tarzan and said, "Try Disney, I dare you."
Hmm.
It's true though. Are they going to try that with Tarzan? Because the whole thing with Tarzan is Tarzan supposed to be a ape man, and you cannot put a black man playing a quote unquote ape man because no, that's racist. That right
Mm,
there is racist. You
yeah.
know what I mean?
Yeah.
Um, but again, it's just like, are we really going to do a Tarzan? Are you seriously going to do that? You're going to lose the magic
I
of
think
that
they've done.
movie.
Have they done like a couple Tarzan movies that's live action?
Um, I'm trying to remember. I feel like their original move. I think technically Tarzan is a remake. I think you're correct with that. Um, of a real life movie, but I think the real life movie wasn't like black and white or something like that. Like honestly, can't remember. Um, and of course they kind of done like George of the Jungle. I mean, I think that's kind of their remake, even though it's not a Disney movie.
Yeah.
Um,
I think
but
they.
technically George of the Jungle is kind of Tarzan
Oh, okay. Yeah.
in a sense,
Uh,
except he goes
the,
to,
hmm.
you know, sort of
Yeah.
Tarzan though. He
Yeah.
also went to the real world as well, quote unquote. Um,
I see that.
and then goes back, but
Hmm.
what was amazing about Tarzan is not just also the movie itself, but you also had Phil Collins doing the background music for that movie. Phil Collins is not an unhealthy man at the moment. Like that's not going to
Yeah.
happen. So I feel like it's just like, can we just leave it alone? Personally, as a child who grew up with these movies, can we just leave it alone?
Yeah, I do agree. Um, some of the movies have been working for them, like a lot. I would say
Yeah,
Lion King has been successful, a bit, and
yeah,
the soundtrack does not sound the same. The
no,
Disney first.
no.
Um,
I
and
would agree with that.
I, I think that's about basically it for me. But I don't know if anybody has
I haven't seen Lion
different
King to be totally
experience.
honest.
Mm,
The real
yeah,
life Lion King, I didn't see it, and I didn't see Mufasa either.
yeah, yeah,
Um, I don't think. I think the only reason that I would consider Lion King is because James Earl Jones, um, is a part of that,
yeah.
and obviously, as a 90s kid who watched the original, I'm all
Uh-huh.
about that.
Mhm.
But
Yeah.
I wouldn't watch Mufasa.
Mhm.
I I don't I'm not intrigued to watch it.
Mm.
Um, and that's the other thing too, like when I think about like other movies, I know they've been talking about Moana, and it's like, but Moana has barely been a cartoon movie before you're gonna make it a live action movie, and you just did the second movie for it. It's like,
Yeah.
what is the point?
Mm.
I don't
Yeah.
know.
And yeah. 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 That's true. But
But where this movie
that's
is
that.
concerned with Snow
Yeah.
White, it's just like
Yeah.
I was not
That's
intrigued to see it with all of the controversy
mhm.
surrounding it.
Yeah.
Um,
And speaking of the controversy, going back to Rachel Singler's comments based
mhm.
on what she thinks the Snow White character or the movie from the 1937, she thought it was outdated, and even suggest that the prince was depicted as a stalker that stalked Snow White.
What?
Yeah,
Ugh. And this is
yeah,
what I mean. Like, why do, like, I don't know what generation she's a part of,
yeah,
but I feel like today's generation is so quick to just pull apart these movies that, yes, maybe was problematic. Snow
yeah.
White is problematic in many ways. First of all, she's not a woman. She was 13 years old.
Hmm.
So it's like, I get that. But leave it as it is. Just leave it alone as it was. It was a problematic movie in today's generation, but it's just oh, it's a movie. Leave it alone. And this is what I mean. Um, talking about yes, is using the term dwarf, a derogatory term. Absolutely. I wouldn't go up to a person and call them a dwarf. Absolutely not.
Hmm.
That is what they were called because as my mom was like questioning, she's like, but dwarfs they're not human. And that's
Mm.
the term, and that's the part of it. You're not going to go to a little person and call
Hmm.
them a dwarf. A dwarf was actually, like, I'm not sure if the dwarves in Snow White are actually human or not. Not like Lord of the Rings dwarves where they're not human. They're not
Hmm.
human, so they are dwarves. Um, and uh, it's like take it for what it is. But that's the main
Hmm.
thing I just have to say. So take it for what it is. Okay. Like, come on, it's a movie. They're not gonna have a
Hmm.
talking mirror saying, talking to a mirror saying, "Mirror, mirror on the wall, who's the fairest of them all?" Like, no, that doesn't happen. It's a movie. But yeah, I just know for me, I just wasn't intrigued enough to see this movie. Snow White, I will be totally honest with you, was not one of my particularly favorite movies.
Hmm.
The main reason I watched the movies was because I love Dopey, because I am Dopey. Dopey is me.
Hmm.
That's really the only thing I love about Snow White is
Right,
Dopey. So
right.
it just I wasn't
Yeah,
intrigued enough.
yeah. So yeah, it's like the um I wouldn't say I was this was on my radar either. So
Mm,
basically it wasn't one of my I would say there's other movies that I'm more in tune into.
mm, yeah.
But this wasn't on my radar. So basically, um yeah, it sucks if uh someone's childhood was ruined based on their experience or, on this movie. So
Hmm. And I mean, like I said, they've done, like you said too, they've done really good. Like I like the idea of doing movies like Maleficent because it you are it's a different take
Mhm,
on Sleeping Beauty,
mhm,
but it also focuses more on the villain and like their backstory. I thought
mhm,
Maleficent was a beautiful movie. I thought it was great. Angelina Jolie is fantastic in it. I thought that was a great take on it. Maybe even Mufasa will be great, but I think for me, Mufasa was way too close to the Lion King. That is
Hmm.
just like one thing after another. And so I think like maybe with some space, they could
Hmm.
have done that. Maybe they should have only done Mufasa and forget doing Lion King. I don't know.
Hmm.
But it yeah,
Hmm.
I don't know.
Yeah.
Like even with Toy Story, which is not Disney, it's Pixar, but it's still under the same umbrella. Even with Toy Story, they say, oh, the last one was going to be the last one. But now it's not the last one.
Nah, they're doing.
And I'm all for it. I love Toy Story. Again, grew up with Toy Story. Um, but when is it going to stop?
Hmm.
You know what I mean? Like,
Hmm.
I mean,
Hmm.
listen, give me all the Tom Hanks. I'm for it. I love Tom Hanks. I'll never get enough. But when is enough enough, though? How much are we going to keep recycling the same story?
Hmm.
Like,
Yeah,
it
well,
feels lazy.
yeah, well, they're doing a lot more. So they're
Yeah.
doing Hunchback on Notre Dame,
Oh, God.
Hercules, Cruella 2, Tink, The World, the Sword, and
Well, they
the
have done
Stone.
Cruella before
Hmm.
already.
Hmm.
And
Hmm.
again, that is similar to what I was saying before with Maleficent,
Yeah.
where they're doing a similar movie,
Hmm.
but they're more focused now on the actual villain
Hmm.
and doing the backstory of the villain, which I think is
Yeah.
fantastic. Cruella did
Yeah.
amazing.
Yeah.
So why not do stuff like that
Hmm.
for like the really popular movies that did really
Right.
well, that kind of
Right.
have these villains where you can do the backstory with, instead of
Yeah. Yeah.
recycling the same movie you already did,
Hmm.
you know?
Well, yeah, and they're also doing Aladdin 2, which is rumored, and then
Yeah, I'm not even surprised
Robin.
because they're
Yeah.
probably gonna do three of those because there's three
Yeah.
of Aladdin movies.
Yeah. Yeah, and final Robin Hood, which is confirmed.
Oh, Jesus.
So yeah,
So they're even doing like obscure ones that be
yeah.
like I completely forgot existed. I mean, I know maybe I'm maybe the only person who forgot it existed, but I haven't
Mhm.
seen Robin Hood since I was a kid.
Yeah.
It's kind of one of those ones that like you don't think about very often in comparison
Hmm.
to other movies. So what's
Yep.
next? What are those obscure ones that are next that like I own on VHS, but like no one probably knows what the hell I'm talking about. Are they
Hmm.
going to do the sword and the rock or stone or whatever the hell that one was called?
Yeah.
They're going to do
So
that too?
sort of. Yeah, they're doing that too. I
God
think
damn.
that is Sword and Stone.
Sword and stone, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. So
Again, movies
it's
I have
yeah.
not watched since I was a kid and
Oh,
completely forgot about.
Bambi as well. They're doing
Oh, come
Bambi.
on.
Yeah, Bambi. It's in early development. That's what they said.
How? How? How are they going to do that? I guess the similar way that they did Lion King, but it's less like
Hmm.
I want I want a Bambi where Thumper is thumping his foot and it doesn't look like really bad CGI. But I'm probably
Hmm.
not gonna get that. And I just I don't know. I don't
Hmm.
I'm not about Bambi.
Yeah.
What's
Yeah.
next? Fox and the Hound? Do you know
Yeah.
what? Let me not put that in the universe.
Did you?
Let
Oh,
me,
actually, did you see Lady in a Tramp? Did you see that back in?
that's an older movie, right?
Yeah,
Live
yeah, it's
action one?
2019. Yeah, that 2019, the
No.
live action one. You seen
No.
that one?
No.
I didn't think that was too bad. It wasn't too bad. It was
Did
pretty
they have the
pretty good.
Siamese cats and everything?
Yeah, I think they had like almost everything. Yeah, in
Okay.
there. Yeah, yeah.
I
So
don't know. I
if I
saw it.
remember,
I thought it
yeah.
looked cute, sure. But
Mhm.
it's again, it's just like, oh, why can't we just leave it alone?
Um,
Lady and the Tramp for me,
it's
you know what?
mhm.
You know what I would actually really love Disney to do? Disney, if you're listening, you're not. But
Yeah,
like,
yeah,
anyways,
yeah, yeah, yeah.
actually, I'm not sure if it is a Disney movie. Maybe you can double check it for me. But if it is a Disney movie, which I'm pretty confident it is, Oliver and Company. I'd be here for that. I'd be here for some singing dogs and cats. I'm here for Oliver and Company. Do you know the movie Oliver and Company?
Oliver and Company.
It
No, I never haven't heard of it.
okay, it is a Disney movie.
Uh-huh.
That I recall because I remember finding the songs and it being linked to Disney. Um, but it's one of those movies that I owned. My mom like loves, like we still talk about Oliver and Company because it's one of
Mhm.
those movies.
Mhm.
It's such a cute movie. It's so good. It's uh do that movie. If we're gonna do obscure like Disney movies, let's do Oliver and Company. Come on. I
Mhm.
think it's oh, okay. I but while we're on the Disney topic, which I
Mhm.
think I was saving for another topic, but we don't have to dive deep into it. But I do plan on talking about this in a separate episode. Did you hear that they were banning um the streaming of um Emperor's New Groove?
Oh wow. I haven't heard that. Like you mean the streaming as
Yeah, like they're
a
not streaming it on Disney.
interesting.
They're like
Uh
banning it. I will we'll think about it more once because I can't remember which episode I'm doing that for. I think it'll be coming soon. But
mhm.
they yeah, they're banning it. For what reason I can't remember. It either way, it didn't make sense to me. And I'm thinking, what is so bad about Emperor's New Groove? Like, what is it about this movie? Like, Emperor's New Groove is one of my favorite movies. Like, I literally will walk around being like, no touchy, no touch. I
Mhm.
love Emperor's, like, our bird. His name
Mhm.
is Kuzo, and we will call him Emperor Kuzo or Emperor Cusco because of the movie. Like, it's one of those
Mhm.
movies that I loved, and obviously I'm the one who grew up with it. I don't understand why they're banning this movie. And it was just recently I watched it on
Mhm.
Disney, and I'm
Mhm.
like, oh, I love this movie. Brings back all of those memories for me, and
Mhm.
then they're taking it away. I don't
Mhm.
understand why.
I don't know. I have,
We'll talk about it
yeah.
more once. I think that's coming sometime in April.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
believe that I'm doing that episode, but I don't understand why they would do it. I don't get it. It's
Yeah.
stupid to me.
I don't know. I
They're,
don't know.
I don't know.
Yeah. So yeah, that ends the Snow White movie flop discussion. But yeah.
Yeah, I
And
guess we'll see how things
yeah,
go.
yeah.
I know people aren't necessarily excited about Gal Gadot either in the movie.
Mhm.
I feel like I don't know much about Gal Gadot besides her being Wonder Woman. Like I haven't seen a lot of her movies outside of that. Um, I think she's amazing as Wonder Woman. Um, but I can't speak to anything else, but I just know I've heard
Yeah.
that
Yeah.
people aren't too excited about Gal Gadot.
Yeah, they they're not too excited of her acting. Her acting is a little bit choppy here and there in terms of overall
Yeah.
in other movies. But yeah, yeah,
And sometimes people are only capable of doing one really good movie, or at least can act in one really good movie.
right.
Um, maybe that Wonder Woman is her movie,
Mm,
and that's fine. You're just not gonna get much of a career out of that, I guess.
yeah.
And again, we've had listen, I'm still ranting on Snow White. We've we've seen other movies come out again with Snow White. That is not a part of Disney. They
Mhm,
had Snow White and the Huntsman, which was Kristen Stewart and Chris
mhm,
Hemsworth
mhm.
was the Huntsman. I particularly enjoyed that movie.
Yeah.
It came out a long time ago. Like
Mhm,
Twilight was still happening, so it was like in between movies. Um, and I thought it was great. And I can't remember who played. Oh, it was Charlize Theron. She played the queen, and I thought, of course, first of all, Charlize Theron can do no wrong. She's incredible, and she was incredible in that movie. I thought it was great. And then
mhm.
they had a more Snow White like movie with shoot, what's her name? Um, Phil Collins' daughter. uh, what's her name? Lily Collins. She played Snow White, and they had Julia Roberts play the Queen. And I thought like it was cute. It was a cute movie. Um, so they had like we've had these Snow White renditions already outside of Disney that I feel like it's just overdone. Maybe that's why I'm not intrigued. Because I'm like, I feel like I've seen this movie already so many different times.
Right.
Snow White is one of those movies that were just repeated constantly, um, in its true form.
It's been done in plays, been done well, live action.
Yeah.
Um, but yeah. Um,
And Cinderella was as well, but I feel like
mm,
Cinderella really had one movie that was really true to form
mm,
with like the Brandy version, the quote unquote black version of Cinderella, that came out in the 90s. That it was great. I loved it.
mm, mm.
But that's really the only one they've had movies that were
Right,
like the Cinderella effect,
right, right.
um, like the Hilary Duff movie with um Michael, what's his name? Chad Michael
Mhm,
Murray, that's the name. And they've done stuff like that with Cinderella.
mhm.
So it doesn't feel like it's been overdone. But Cinderella, Snow White was really it's been overdone,
Right,
personally,
right,
over the
right,
years.
right.
Okay, now I'm done.
Okay, okay. All right. That's it. That's it for our Snow White segment. Uh, so back to
Regular
the
schedule.
topics. Yeah, always schedule when it comes to the topics. Go
Yeah,
ahead.
so we're going to be talking about a couple space topics.
Yeah.
Um, and we'll kind of get into that in a second. We're also going to be talking about sharks are heading over here to Canada,
Hmm.
and we're going to be talking about why that's happening and what that means. Um, Luckily, we don't have any oceans in Ontario, so I'm fine. Um, and we're also going to be talking about a couple that got married or have been married for 20 years, and they met on Ashley Madison. You know Ashley Madison, correct? Okay. So we're
Yeah,
going to talk.
it's an adult
It
dating
is
website,
it is a it is a dating website
and
for
she's
married
a
people
yeah, yeah.
who want to step out of their marriage.
Hmm.
Yeah. And there's a whole documentary on it on Netflix. It's a
Mm.
three-parter. And yep, yep. So
Okay.
let's get to this episode, the topics here. So
Yeah.
the first space topic, which I'll have pictures that I will post.
Hmm.
Um, this particular picture, or what they're talking about in this particular one, is stars or like a galaxy that is shaped like a penguin holding an egg. It's really cool. It looks like a penguin. It's so cool. So we'll talk about this. So NASA, do you want me to send you the picture?
Yeah, go ahead.
I'll send you the picture real quick and then we'll talk about it. Okay. So NASA has released a stunning new image from the James Webb Space Telescope, marking the 2-year anniversary of the release of its first images. And the space agency is calling it the Penguin and Egg. What exactly are we looking at? Well, it's two interacting galaxies known jointly as ARP 142 and lie 326 million light years from Earth. So far, they are 100,000 light years apart. So the egg and the penguin are 100 light years apart,
Hmm.
which may sound far, but in astronomical terms, that's actually really close.
Hmm.
In contrast, our Milky Way and the closest major galaxy to us, as you know, the Andromeda galaxy, are only separated by 2.5 million light years.
Hmm.
So the Penguin and the A galaxies made their first pass sometime between 25 and 75 million years ago.
Uh,
Um, yeah, this in turn triggered a new star formation in the Penguin. Um, Galactic mergers can cause galaxies to form thousands of new stars a year over millions of years. In the case of the Penguin, NASA said research suggests that about 100 to 200 new stars have formed each year. This is many times more than what is happening in our own galaxy, where only roughly 6 to 7 new stars form each year. So not very much in comparison to the Penguin. Before the galactic interaction, the Penguin was a spiral galaxy. Now the center forms the eye of the Penguin, which if you could see like the eye.
yeah, I see
That's
it.
the eye they're talking
That's
about.
yeah.
The egg, on the other hand, which is to the left of it, is an elliptical galaxy, which contains much older stars. At the top right of the image is the PGC, oh boy, 1237172 galaxy, which is
Mm-hmm.
100 million light years closer to Earth, according to a release by the Space Telescope Science Institute in Baltimore, Maryland. That's where Baltimore is, correct, yes. And of course, in the background lie thousands more galaxies. So that's the penguin and the egg.
Mm-hmm.
Next, quick space one. We were talking about we people, some people, might be able to start traveling to Mars by 2030. That's what year are we in? That's only 5 years from now.
Yeah, it's 5 years from now. Before we get to that topic,
Mhm.
yeah, when I'm seeing this picture, it looks like, yeah, I thought it was a dolphin at one point, right?
Yeah, yeah, I can see that too.
And yeah, a little bit, but yeah, I could see the penguin eyes a little bit.
And then for
Uh,
the egg, that's like right beside it, which I
yeah,
think
yeah,
is,
yeah, yeah,
yeah, which is
yeah.
interesting.
So yeah, it's pretty nice.
Yeah,
Uh,
I'll be posting it. There is also another picture that's more like colored.
mhm,
Um, that I don't think that's actually the colors that it shows, but I think maybe
mhm,
whatever they did to enhance it.
mhm,
So I'll be posting both of those pictures. So you can see that, but so the
mhm.
listeners can see that too. But yeah, so it's really
Yeah.
cool.
Oh yeah, it is. It's looks really, really cool. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
So NASA is readying to send astronauts to Mars by the 2030s. This is 2030s, but
Mhm,
and the agency's first year-long simulated mission took one giant leap toward making that goal a reality.
mhm.
So, marking the first completed installment of three planned programs from
Yeah.
NASA's Crew Health and Performance Exploration. Four crew members recently emerged from a simulated habitat at the
Mhm,
Johnson Space Center in Houston, Texas. The volunteer crew members logged 378 days in the 1,700 square foot 3D printed habitat called Mars Dune Alpha, which simulated what a real life mission to the red planet would entail. So I
mhm.
guess they were in this thing for 375. Like, am I? The
Right.
crew members logged 378 days. I'm assuming that that's how long they were in there.
Mm,
I mean, okay. Um, so Kelly Haston, Annika Saluru, Ross Brockwell, and Nathan Jones entered the habitat on June 25th, yeah, 2023, and completed the program on July 6th. So, yes, of 2024. So they were in there for over a year. Like,
mm,
nuts, nuts. They said, quote, "This was an incredibly successful mission," Dr. Susan Bell, lead of the Behavioral Health and Performance Laboratory at NASA Johnson Space Center and co-investigator on the CHIPIA project, told ABC News. Bell explained that the program has been monumental in NASA's efforts to send astronauts to Mars in the coming decades by testing how humans can live, research, eat, and sleep in a resource-restricted environment for such a prolonged amount of time. The mission is designed to mimic what researchers would expect of a Mars mission, according to Bell, who noted the quote, incredible amounts of data from the experience proved it to be a success.
mm,
Simulated spacewalks, robotic operations, habitat maintenance, exercise, and crop growth were among the crew members' daily activities during the mission.
mm.
saying, quote, Mars is our goal. Stephen Coroner, deputy director of NASA's Johnson Space Center, said during the press conference when the crew members emerged, quote, as global interest and capabilities in space exploration continue to expand, America is poised to lead. The completion of the Chipia 1 mission is an important step in this goal. So what would a human-led mission to Mars entail? Bell explained that the 378 days the crews logged in the simulated habitat was a
Mhm.
design reference mission for the amount of time an astronaut crew would spend
Mhm.
on the Martian surface. Saying, quote, the length of time and the entire mission was built along the idea of trying to replicate as best they could what it
Mhm.
would be like to have a Mars surface habitat mission.
Mhm.
The transit period to get to Mars is approximately 9 months each way. 9 months.
Mhm. Mhm.
It's a long time. According to
Yeah.
Bell, and the astronauts would spend over a year on the planet. So that's basically 9 months there, a year
Mhm.
there, and then another 9 months coming back. So it's just under 3 years for this particular mission, if they were to do that. Um,
Right.
so yeah, they would go there, spend over a year on the planet, collecting data and assessing the planetary alignment that would allow the spacecraft to land and depart from Mars on the same orbit. Likening the orbit to a coin donation funnel, Bell explained that the spacecraft would go into an oblong orbit and intersect with Mars to descend to the surface in a circle instead of only using fuel to get there. Going to Mars and back will log more than 1 billion miles on the spacecraft's odometer, according
Mhm.
to NASA, which is more than 1,000 times the distance to Orion, the Artemis 1 spacecraft orbiting the moon, traveled.
Mhm.
Missions to Mars have higher energy needs, demand much longer system service life, which is interesting, and have stricter departure timeframe constraints than moon missions, according to the agency, which I would think like the moon is further
Right.
than, unless I'm wrong, but I would imagine the moon is further than Mars. So that's interesting.
Mhm. Mhm.
Looking to the future, NASA's next Chapia mission is slated for spring of 2025, so coming up soon, and the third is expected to begin next year, 2026.
Mhm.
Um, so almost done this one. So missions to Mars have higher energy. Yeah, I've read that already. So completing the Chapia mission was really exciting, and we are just thrilled at the success of the mission. That's going to enable us to plan for the future, to compare it to other crews, and position us to be able to someday land on Mars. So
Okay.
that's
Okay.
Mars.
That's cool. All right.
Let's move on to so, as climate change disrupts ocean temperatures, a significant trend is now emerging. More sharks are heading north into Canadian waters.
Mhm.
And experts say Canadians may need to get used to these new marine neighbors as sightings increase along the coast. This northward shift includes great white sharks, tiger sharks, and black tip shark. Oh God, I just learned about black tip sharks.
Mhm.
They're scary. So they're not scarier than I guess a white a great white, but the thing with black tip sharks is that apparently they are kind of um lazy, but they're
Mhm.
also opportunists. Where like if food were to show up to them in any form, including human, um, they'll just attack and they'll come and like they'll see like there's activity by other sharks or other marine life, and they'll just come join the party, and they're relentless.
Mhm.
So I'm so happy we don't have an ocean in Ontario. Let's continue. Um,
Mhm.
so yeah, which are now appearing closer to shore along the eastern seaboard in Canada. As the number of sharks increases, so does the frequency of human-shark interactions. Quote, a lot of these sharks are fairly close to the beach where the people are, and that's something I would encourage people to be aware of, warned Dr. Stephen Caggiula, who is a professor in the Department of Biological Sciences at Florida Atlantic University. Wrote, they're cruising in the water and you're seeing more and more sharks coming farther and farther north than ever before. Once a rare sight in frigid northern waters, sharks are becoming increasingly common. Growing evidence suggests a rise in great white shark populations, um, more particularly along Canada's east coast, like mentioned before. Aside from more frequent sightings, there have been reports in Nova Scotia of two shark attacks in recent years, one of which injured a swimmer and another that killed a dog. Now that would be its food source. I would say treat sharks like you would alligators. They are most likely going to eat your dogs.
Uh-huh.
Um, Shark sightings are becoming so common that Neil Hammerschlag, the executive director of the Shark Research Foundation and president of Atlantic Shark Expeditions, said Nova Scotia may soon start putting warning signs on beaches.
Huh.
Although there are more sharks in Canadian waters, he stressed that this is a sign of a healthy ecosystem, as a large prey population is needed to support sharks. Quote, we know they've been overfished historically where the numbers plummeted. So to start seeing more numbers is a good sign. Okay. With this influx of sharks in Canadian waters, Kajua and Hammerschlag
Uh-huh.
both warn that these encounters may become a new normal for Canadians.
Uh,
Quote, you're going to start to see the big boy off Canadian maritime provinces. And so
uh,
that's something else that Canadians need to be aware of. The world is changing. The climate is changing, the oceans are changing, and as a result of that, we have to adapt as well. We have to be more vigilant. So, sharks are migrating into northern latitudes earlier and expanding their movements farther north due to ocean warming, according to the NOAA Fisheries, which is a United States federal agency. A 2022 study published in Global Change Biology found that tiger sharks' seasonal distribution has expanded in the Northwest Atlantic Ocean over the last several decades. This northward expansion was driven by climate change, um, in particular, the overall warming of the coast along the northeastern U.S. coast, researchers found.
uh,
Hammerschlag, I really hope that's his name because I'd be butchering it, who studies tiger sharks, said these predators prefer tropical and subtropical ocean temperatures, but he's starting to see tiger sharks expand their migration range farther north from Long Island, New York to Cape Cod, Massachusetts. Saying, quote, there have been instances of tiger sharks encountered in Nova Scotia and waters in Canada, adding that although it's not common, it might be more common in the future as the temperatures here continue to rise. As the waters in the north become more hospitable, more sharks like great whites are making their way into Canada. We can attribute that to climate change, as they've been saying. The water in the ocean is getting warmer and warmer, and the sharks can extend their range farther and farther north because the water is sufficiently warm for them.
uh,
We're seeing this shift in the distribution of sharks. There may not be as many down south, like Florida, but there's more farther north. We're getting sharks off Long Island, which is, I mean, I didn't know that. Shark attacks have risen recently in New York State as well. For example, in August of 2023, a woman was seriously injured after a shark bit through her thigh while she was swimming at a New York City beach, officials said, which was an unusually severe attack that appeared to be without precedent. Maybe he was hungry. I don't know. They were never there a decade ago. And so because of this change in water temperature, these sharks are going farther north and it started to become more and more of an issue in New York, where we had a record number of shark bites right here. And that is something climate change has helped trigger. Great. Shark movement northward isn't solely driven by climate change. A confluence of factors, including increased bait fish populations, successful conservation efforts, and more people enjoying the water, contribute to more shark sightings and interactions. I thought sharks are scared of us. So why are humans part of the reason that sharks are coming to us? Like, This is what you try to tell me during Shark Week. This isn't helping. Like, shark populations, especially in the Atlantic Ocean, have been heavily fished for their meat and fins. That's so mean. Hammerschlag said this has led to dramatic declines in their numbers. Thankfully, he said there have been significant efforts in the last decade to protect sharks and prevent further decline. The rebound of fish stocks in the ocean has led to an increase in the number of seals and other prey, resulting in a rise in shark populations,
Mhm.
which unfortunately, the circle of life, that is their food choice. And as a result of that, you're getting more and more of these large predators coming back. Lastly,
Interesting.
yeah, I think so too. I'd rather the animals that they eat attract them than us humans, which
Mhm.
apparently they don't like us. We don't
Mhm.
taste good to them.
Mhm.
So,
Yeah.
anyways,
Yeah.
lastly, Hammerschlag noted that with more people in the ocean than ever before, the likelihood of encounters with sharks has increased, saying,
Hmm.
I would say because of ocean warming and the atmosphere warming, it's hotter outside. So people
Mhm.
are going to the ocean and spending more time there. It increases your chances of an encounter. Um, Saying if you look at the stats, when there seem to be more shark bites during holidays and weekends, sharks aren't thinking, oh my goodness, it's Saturday or it's July 4th weekend, a good time
Mhm.
to go bite someone. It's just because there are so many more people in the water. I think partly they also don't know what's human versus what's not. So they're just biting.
Mhm.
Um, so shark bites reflect more than about human behavior than they do about shark behavior.
Right.
Um, So yeah, I'm not going to read any more because it is a pretty long article, but
Mhm.
I
Mhm.
think just if you want to read the full article, it's Global News, is the one that reported on this. But yeah, if it's getting warmer,
Mhm. Yeah.
summer is going to be coming soon.
Yeah.
If you're going to go out there, just be mindful of um
Sure.
sharks.
Yeah.
And I'm going to thank my lucky stars that again I shall repeat, we are not near an ocean.
Mhm.
So
Yeah.
great. But that's that topic. So next, the last topic. So it's no secret that Ashley Madison matches married people who want to have affairs.
Mhm.
But Stefania and Michael were different. Neither was interested in a traditional affair, bless you, looking instead to spark new connections as discreetly as possible while transitioning out of their respective marriages. Marriage dating wasn't exactly something people publicized, so when Ashley Madison started in
Mhm.
2001, it was the perfect place for Michael and Stefania to start. Quote, I was separated when I started using Ashley Madison, but still legally married, Michael told the Toronto Sun. I wanted discretion to avoid complicating things unnecessarily. He said it helped the situation that they didn't have any children, but he realized that he and his ex-wife never developed a good friendship. Quote, though it didn't work out, I realized I still had a lot to give to the right person. So Stefania, on the other hand, got married to her husband when they were really young, saying, quote, we quickly grew apart. We had nothing in common anymore.
Mhm.
While they split, Stefania said she wanted to explore dating while keeping things discreet. Quote, so one night, my friend dared me to check out Ashley Madison, and it ended up being what I needed. I guess this was before the bots came into the mix. You don't
Mhm.
know. Watch the
Mhm.
doc.
Mhm.
She said, I started talking with Michael because we had a shared love of music. We took
Right.
things slow and didn't meet up in person for 6 weeks. Michael added that he wasn't on the site looking for a random hookup, saying, quote, I wanted someone I could sit down with over a cup of coffee and talk. Sure, 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 sure. But anyways, I'm sure that's exactly I'm sure he's great, but I'm just saying. Quote, I connected with Stefania because we had similar interests and our friendship quickly blossomed. We took our time getting to know each other and that created a strong foundation. Stefania was a bit more hesitant, describing her return to the dating scene as scary because she had 2 children. over time I saw Michael, I was not only a great Michael was not only a great person, but that he could meet all of my needs. Both noted that they only tried to meet people on Ashley Madison and avoided other dating sites. They also each chatted with others online, but neither of them met up with anyone in person except one another. While it's difficult to measure how many people have found long-term happiness on Ashley Madison, I'm going to say the majority haven't. And the psychology of selecting a partner can be complex. Meeting on a dating app is less a science and more about instinct. Saying, quote, Ashley Madison, like all dating apps, sites, provides the platform for people to screen each other, okay, meet and potentially have the relationship they desire. Okay. Sex and relationship therapist Tammy Nelson told The Sun. I'm sorry, I'm gonna be really horrible about this just because I
Mm,
watched the documentary and
mm,
I know a lot. As not so much in 2001, but when it was taken over by Noel, it was just an absolute show. So that's where I'm
mhm,
at.
mhm.
Um, quote, there are those who have met on Ashley Madison that have found dating can improve their marriage and home or create a more fulfilling solo life. And there are couples who have met on the site and are still together decades later. The goal of anyone signing up for Ashley Madison, just like any other dating site, is to find happiness. After 20 years, Michael and Stefania, who are now co-workers, consider themselves best friends. I didn't know what I was missing in a relationship until I met him. I never knew what true love was until I met Stefania, is what Michael said. Um, but that's that.
Mhm,
The thing for me, like I mentioned, was just I'm happy it worked for them.
mhm.
And I think it's okay in this circumstance because they were both separated from their relationships.
Right.
Um, that's just was not the goal for Ashley Madison, and they made that very clear. Watch the
Mm,
documentary. I leave it there.
mm. Yeah, the documentary's on Netflix, isn't it?
It is.
Or is it? Okay. All right. I think there's also a miniseries as well. As do my research,
Oh, I didn't
and
know about a miniseries.
there's a mini. It's called Ashley Madison Affair TV
Okay.
miniseries. I don't know if that's on Netflix.
I never heard of it.
Don't see that it's on Netflix, but oh yeah, oh no, that's the documentary talking about sex, lies, and
Sex,
scandal.
Lies, and Scandal. Yeah.
Yeah, and this is a mini TV series that's I don't know where it's available, but
I mean, if you're
yeah,
interested, I guess you could just do a
yeah,
Google
yeah,
search on it called Ashley
mm,
Madison Affair.
yeah,
And yeah,
yeah.
but
Well, Ashley Madison's been around since 2015,
2000, no, 2001.
2001. Oh,
Mm-hmm.
yeah. So, yeah, my bad. I was looking at a different article based on that. So yeah, you said 2001. It is
Yeah, yeah, because
2000.
it was
Um,
owned and operated by completely different people.
mhm.
And then it was taken over by Noel. Can't remember his last name. It really doesn't matter. I think it was taken over by him in to, towards the end of like the 2000s. Um, because I think the scandal actually happened in 2013, like when the data drop
Mhm.
happened,
Mhm.
or the
Mhm.
multiple data drop happened. That was
Interesting.
in
Okay.
2013, I believe.
Mm, well, I haven't heard anybody still on the website.
The website still
It's
exists.
yeah.
Still
I
exists.
haven't. I haven't. Yeah, it still exists. I just haven't heard many. It's basically a lot of these dating apps nowadays, like Tinder or
Yeah. Yeah, I think with
Bumble. Yeah.
Ashley Madison, I think
Yeah.
not to go too deep with it at this point, but I
Yeah.
think with Ashley Madison, I think is um if people are still using it, which I'd be really shocked by after everything that happened, because there's so much more to the scandal than just
Mhm.
the data
Mhm.
drop.
Mhm.
Um, but uh, if you're using Ashley Madison, just be very cautious of what you're doing.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um, I feel like
But
there's more secure ways of cheating on your spouse than going to Ashley Madison. Between the credit card information, addresses being leaked, um, the lying And really, I guarantee you, you're probably not even talking to a real person. They're probably bots because
Yeah,
they were bots.
or a bot or somebody that's across the country. That
Yeah,
you
but
don't
they
know.
actually used bots.
Yes,
Yeah.
yes.
They would claim,
There's a lot of damn websites that use bots, which is
yeah,
crazy to me.
they would claim that, but the thing is, the difference with Ashley Madison is they
Yeah.
would claim that they were real people. They were not.
Mm,
They were bots. 9 times
mm,
out of 10 were actual employees of Ashley Madison responding
mm,
back to people
mm.
in order to get their money at the end of the day.
Right.
Yeah, it was,
Interesting.
yeah, absolute mess.
Mm,
It's a great documentary. I highly recommend.
mm,
Um, but I know this is not a Netflix thing, but I highly recommend it. It's really good, and you'll be
mm, mm.
angry. But
Okay.
yeah,
All right. Okay.
that's it for me.
So this ends this episode 87 of the Next Take podcast. The Next Take podcast is available on all podcast platforms. We also have a website called Tanyka,
Uh, next take podcast.poppage.io,
and we're also available.
Facebook and Instagram and Next Take Podcast, and Twitter, TikTok, and Blue Sky, and
Yeah.
Next Take Pod.
Okay. And you can contact us on email at Mikel Tanyka@gmail.com. That is Mikel Tanyka@gmail.com. So we talked about a barrage of topics on this episode, like from Snow White to the Penguin star. Is it from NASA or
So we talked. It was
yeah
Penguin and
yeah
Egg, Galaxy that
okay
was posted out from NASA. Yeah,
right. And then Ashley Madison's data breach, and then the other thing that you talked about in terms of
sharks coming to
sharks.
Canada, in particular the northeastern
Yeah.
side of
Mhm.
Canada, and we also talked about we might be going to Mars soon.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. I hope you guys enjoyed the episode. Um, and that's pretty much it. I have to say. Yeah. You have anything else you have to say, Tanika, or that's it?
No, that's it for me.
All right. So I'm Mikal, and
And I'm Tanyka.
we're out until
Tomorrow. We're getting an episode
all right.
tomorrow. Yeah.
Peace, guys.
Bye.
Bye.